Lystra was a city in central Anatolia, now part of present-day Turkey. It is mentioned 5 times in the New Testament. Lystra was visited several times by the Apostle Paul, along with Barnabas or Silas.There Paul met a young disciple, Timothy. Location: the site of Lystra is believed to be located 30 kilometers south of the city of Konya, north of the village of Hatunsarai, and some 15 kilometers north of a small town called Akkoran. A small museum within the village of Hatunsarai displays artifacts from ancient Lystra. Lystra is the ancient name of the village visited by the Apostle Paul. There is a present-day village called Lystra near Turkey.It, a village of the Merom district of Konya province. Ancient ruins can be seen near Lystra, including a church with a big cross marked on the wall, a winery, house-like buildings, and the ruins of a city located over the top of a hill which is locally called Alujumas, where another ruined church ruin can be seen. According to local people, the less visible city was constructed over the hill to hide from enemies of ancient Anatolia. This site is still awaiting excavation. Lystra is located on the ancient Persian royal road. History: the Roman Empire made Lystra a colony in 06 BC, possibly to gain better control of the tribes in the mountains to the west. Later, it was incorporated into the Roman province of Galatia, and soon afterwards the Romans built a road connecting Lystra to Iconium to the north. St. Paul visited here to preach the Christian gospel in 48 AD and again in 51 AD on his first and second missionary journeys, initially coming after persecution drove him away from Iconium. According to Acts chapter 14 verses 8 to 10, Paul healed a man who had been lame from birth. The man leaped up and began to walk, and thus so impressed the crowd that they took him for Hermes, because he was the chief speaker, and his companion Barnabas for Zeus. The crowd spoke in the local Lycaonian language and wanted to offer sacrifices to them. But Paul and Barnabas tore their clothes in dismay and shouted that they were merely men. They used this opportunity to tell the Lystrans of the Creator God, citing the rain from heaven and fruitful seasons as evidence of God's activity and generosity. Soon, however, through the influence of the Jewish leaders from Antioch, Pisidia and Iconium, the Lystrans stoned Paul and left him for dead. As the disciples gathered around him, Paul stood on his feet and went back into the town. The next day, he and Barnabas left for Derbe, but on the return part of their journey, they stopped once more at Lystra, encouraging the disciples to steadfastness. Paul visited this city again on his second missionary tour. Timothy, a young disciple that was probably among those who on the previous occasion at Lystra witnessed Paul's persecution and courage. Timothy left Lystra to become the companion of Paul and Silas on the rest of the second missionary journey. It is also possible that Paul revisited Lystra near the beginning of his third missionary journey. Unlike other cities Paul visited, Lystra apparently had no synagogue, although Timothy and his mother and grandmother were Jewish. Lystra appears to have been the first location where the apostles reached the Gentiles with the gospel of Christ without approaching them through the common ground of Judaism. Theologian John Gill linked Paul's reference to the rain from heaven and fruitful seasons to the words of the Jewish prophet Jeremiah. Do any of the worthless idols of the nations bring rain? In Christian times, Lystra had a bishop. It is included in the Roman Catholic Church's list of titular sees, the most recent titular bishop having been Bishop Enrique A. Angelelli Carletti in the 1960s, later Bishop of La Rioja, Argentina. Remains. Archaeologist and New Testament scholar Sir William Michel Ramsey wrote in 1907, "Excavation at Lystra is urgently needed in the interests of history and New Testament study." He read in 1941, "One hopes that some enthusiast will spend the money needed to clear up the topography of Lystra, and some fragments, at present valueless, may be completed by his discoveries."